My wife of nearly 3 years has done unthinkable things. 2 weeks out of D-Day? Please help me. 30 male. Unfortunately, I have stumbled upon this forum and I'm looking for some support, if you'd be so kind. A bit of background. I'm 30, male, and my wife is 25, female. We've been married for 3 years and together for nearly 6 total. No children, no real assets whatsoever, more debt than there is cash in our checking. We rent a house, and I'm the primary breadwinner, bringing home roughly $4K a month, and she nets around $1.5K. I work my butt off to provide her with the life she's accustomed to, and now facing the unthinkable. My work family is pretty tight-knit. A coworker of nearly 3 years invited me to join in a recreational soccer league, which I've played in for 2 years now. My wife would attend every soccer game of mine, which I thought was a show of support for me. But in the back of my mind, I thought she just went for the alcohol, and that went hand in hand with it. Most nights I had games, I would take it very lightly on the alcohol, but she, as a spectator, would get pretty loose during the games and ride home with me. Pretty frequently after the games, a few of the guys and girls would get together at different places to hang out into the night. A few of the times, we all came back to my place, or we'd go to a bar, pizza joint, etc. Well, a couple of weeks ago, a group of them were going to get together at one of the guys' houses a city away from me. I told them all after the game that I apologized, we wouldn't be going. I had work early the next morning. Well, on the ride home, she texted one of the guys I considered as being a buddy, asking him to give her a ride over there. She asked me if it was okay for her to go while I was driving home, and I said no, I have work in the morning, and I want to be with you tonight. She gave me the angry alcoholic silent treatment, and upon arriving home, I pulled in the drive, and a car pulled up in front of the house. It was my buddy. She had made the executive decision to go to this party, and I was pissed. I went to my buddy's car and told him I'm not okay with this, and to leave. But then my wife got out of my car and into his. They drove away. In my rage, I plugged in the dead iPad I had bought for her some years earlier. It was old, but I knew it was connected to her messaging and social media accounts. I saw exactly where she was, and tried staying up until I finally fell asleep that night around 3 a.m., and she still wasn't home. When I woke up the next morning, she was in our bed. I didn't know when she had come home. I got up, got ready for work, and left that morning without waking her or kissing her goodbye. The first and only time that had ever happened. I wanted her to know I was pissed. Well, before I left for work, I grabbed the iPad and threw it in my briefcase. I got to work that day, and after a meeting and a few phone calls, I pulled out the iPad and saw it light up with a notification from my messaging app. Buddy is typing. I open the app and see a horrific exchange of messages that are supposed to self-destruct, but this app version must have been outdated, as I was able to witness in real time their conversation recanting the night before, where Buddy is making references to them making love and other guys that had fun last night. I damn near lost it, but then it got worse. I watch as my wife instructs Buddy to send her a video of him masturbating, which he obliged to do, and I unfortunately witnessed. I ran out of my office and into the bathroom and vomited profusely. I was shaking from what I had just witnessed, and got permission to leave work for the day. After taking several hours to chill the hell out, I was legitimately afraid I was going to hurt someone or myself. I drove home and found her still sleeping on the bed. I put my stuff down and asked her to come downstairs. I sat across from her and asked her to tell me in detail everything that happened last night, which she did, but omitted any sort of sexual situations. Just drinking, playing pool, and talking, that was it. I then asked her when she spoke with Buddy last. She said she had messaged him back and forth a bit that morning, but nothing in particular. Then I dropped the bomb. Would your story change if you knew I watched the entire conversation you had with him this morning? She blew up into tears, and the first thing out of her mouth was, "Are you leaving me?" She came clean and told me that she couldn't really remember that clearly, but she had sex with Buddy and another teammate last night, and that's all she could remember. It may have been with more guys, but she couldn't remember. I was disgusted. I asked her if this is the first time, and surprisingly, she told me that there had been other times. One time was even in my house while I was sleeping upstairs. That was it. I was so numb to it all. I helped her pack a bag, and she left the house to go stay with family, and she pleaded for me to not tell anyone. I was alone in my horror story, and I'm now 2 weeks out from D-Day with no idea of what to do. I really hope I don't take the cake for worst D-Day experience, but it's hard to think of anything worse than catching your wife in a gangbang scenario with guys you've welcomed into your lives, and to find out that this has been going on for months with at least one of the guys. Now she wants to blame it all on alcohol and swears she's going to start AA, and wants to now go through couples therapy. She wants us to come out of this together. I think it's a little too late, but I'm a chump and I feel the full range of PISD, I think he meant PTSD, emotions including guilt. I don't know why. I have a meeting with an attorney tomorrow. I like to think I'm making the right move no matter how broken she is over being an alcoholic and really wanting to work this out. I can't even talk to her without imagining her being the lunch meat in a douche sandwich. I can't trust her. I'm disgusted by her actions, repeated. I deserve a heck of a lot better than that, and I'm not perfect, but why in the hell do I feel so guilty? There's no reconciling this, right? I'm not the bad guy, am I? Any support or words of wisdom are very much appreciated. I feel like an idiot writing this all out and seeing it so clearly, but it isn't easy to just stop caring about the person you were completely and fully blindsided by. Please take it easy on me. Update. Hello again, everyone. In 17 days, it will be the second anniversary of my D-Day. Honestly, when I go back and read the previous post I wrote, I can honestly say I never thought I'd make it this far in terms of the amount of time that has gone by and the healing of the pain and burden, hurt, and depression I felt because of my ex-wife's horrific actions. I've received messages from many of you caring folks asking for an update, and all I can say is be careful what you ask for. Hopefully this will be my final update as to what has taken place since the divorce became official. In case you're joining the conversation at this point, here's a bit of light reading that will get you caught up on the situation. If you enjoyed being stunned, flabbergasted, appalled, or left saying, unbelievable, read the posts below first before continuing on. Obviously, it has been quite a while since my last update, but there have been some important events that transpired that truly show how appalling a human being can be. After the divorce was finalized in February of 2019, I tried my best to go no contact, but that's easier said than done nowadays. I didn't speak to her or anything like that, but every now and then I might see a post from a distant family member of hers that I hadn't yet blocked, or a friend would unintentionally mention something they saw on a mutual friend's Snapchat, things along those lines. All of my true friends tried their best to keep these types of updates to themselves, but some news was too big to hold back. The first blockbuster came in May of 2019, when one of my best friends called me to tell me that my ex-wife was getting remarried to a guy from Tennessee. Wait, what? Yeah, it was true. My friend's husband had yet to block my ex-wife on Facebook and was able to take screenshots of events that transpired leading up to the big news. Mind you, this all took place between March of 2019 and July of 2019. Apparently, Buddy and her didn't last too long after the divorce was finalized. I don't know the specifics about that or how it ended. I kind of wish I did, but not surprising in the least. Starting in April, a string of status updates on Facebook alluded to everything happening for a reason and subversive hints that she was falling in love with someone. Poor soul. Then, seemingly out of nowhere in July, a simple picture and a caption was posted on her wall. The picture was of her and some random dude, none of whom knew or had heard of, standing in a courthouse, holding hands, rings on fingers, holding up what must have been a marriage certificate. Geotagged in California, proudly updated with her new last name, with a caption saying something along the lines of, "Excited to start the rest of my life with such an amazing man. Feeling so blessed. Look out, Tennessee, here we come." Dramatic, stupefied pause. I know that this entire story all the way back to my first post may seem unbelievable, but I can offer you no other proof than to say I'm writing down God's honest truth. These next few lines may lose some of you, but I hope if you've read this long, you have some trust in me. I felt I needed to warn you before going on. I simply could not stand the intense curiosity of the situation. I reached out to one of my ex-wife's cousin-in-laws, who I got along with pretty well, to get the rest of the story. He obliged. Her new husband was someone who she had met online and had been talking to for a few months over the phone, text, etc. Apparently, they both fell hard and fast for one another, and he proposed to her on a phone call. She said yes, and then simply couldn't wait. Within a week of the proposal, and a serious attempt by her to inform her family and invite them to attend the wedding, which took place in a very random town about 2 hours away from our hometown for some reason I do not know. He flew out to California, and the marriage took place on a Saturday. That day also turned out to be the first time that they had met face to face, but they were now man and wife. The kicker, according to the cousin, is that not one person from her family attended the courthouse wedding. Whether this was due to the lack of time to plan or lack of respect to attend, they were married unceremoniously, something I'm sure would have bothered the heck out of her. That Sunday was spent packing a moving truck with all of her belongings, and they set east for Tennessee on Monday. I couldn't believe it. I've heard it from enough people by now to know that the story and timeline is true, but it was simply unbelievable at the time. That poor man. If only he knew. I'm sure if he did know, he would have had the presence of mind to not get married in California, a no-fault state, where he could fall into the same situation I was facing with her. But hopefully, he was simply not informed as opposed to being that stupid. For the time being, I did the best I could to shake the idea of both of them from my mind, but I did find solace in knowing that they were moving far, far away, where I know I wouldn't have any chance of randomly running into her ever again. Summer came and went in 2019, but right in the middle of fall, another bombshell. While thumbing through Instagram, a video crept up on my screen of my ex-wife holding a plate in front of her father, him covering his eyes with his hands. Before I was able to realize what it was I was looking at, I saw that on the plate sat a single cookie covered with blue frosting. My ex-wife's voice came through and was counting down, 3, 2, 1, it's a boy, as her father uncovered his eyes. It was a freaking gender reveal video? Why am I seeing this? Her mother had just created an Instagram account, completely public, and posted this video of her husband's excitement. Apparently, Instagram's algorithm thought I'd like to see this video from someone I may know. I completely lost it. That was actually a really bad set of days and sleepless nights. The sickened feeling I had was a mix of disgust, pain, frustration, and even a bit of jealousy. It was one of my great aspirations in life to become a father, and had all of this not happened on our previous timeline, this very well could have been the time that we had a child together. It could have been my child. I could have been the one becoming a father. I'm 32 years old now. I thought I'd be one by now, much less not even on a path towards having a relationship, let alone a child. I'm a mature man, and I realize I do have some time ahead of me to achieve that dream with someone I love and am happy with. But I can't stop myself from comparing where I am in life to where I thought I'd be by now. All I can say for certain is that in this particular scenario, I'd very much rather be in my position than the soon-to-be fathers. I imagine that by now, the baby will probably be born. I've had the good fortune and good company of those around me to not have heard either way. I know this is the preferable position to be in, not knowing, than the alternative, but I can't help but wonder every now and then. The good news is that when I really think about it, there are more and more days now that she and her dumpster fire of a life do not cross my mind whatsoever, and I consider that progress. There still are bad days, which are made exponentially worse because of the stay-at-home orders, creating unbearably depressing days. I have the good fortune of currently working as an independent contractor, able to work from home on my computer, but those are very lonely days. I make a point to get out and walk, but I do miss the gym. I've gone home to visit my parents as much as I can, just to have some company that isn't talking to someone on a webinar or over the phone. I know the situation we find ourselves in is shared, and it affects all of our lives. It's not something I'm going through alone. When I get to feeling hopeless, I think back to the early days following my D-Day and how I thought I'd never make it through that. Yet I have. And I'll make it through this difficult time as well. One day at a time, one moment to the next if need be. But time moves forward, no matter how slowly it seems to be moving. I thank you all for taking the time to read my update and catch up on what's transpired. I'd like to close by offering my sincerest gratitude for those of you who commented, messaged me, and encouraged me through this entire life event. I can say without a shadow of a doubt that it was the strength of this community that saved me, encouraged me, and gave me another shot at living a happy life after avoiding the dismal experience. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Here's to another 2 years of surviving and thriving. Final update. Hello again, everyone. It's been a year since my last post, and during that time, I've had quite a few people reach out to me on Reddit looking for advice and offering their support for the experience I went through 3 years ago. There was a surge of messages when my posts were picked up by the Strong Successful Male YouTube channel, and R-Space, hello, and turned into videos that generated hundreds of comments from every corner of the internet, and from every armchair quarterback who had an opinion about how I should have handled the situation, that they didn't believe me, etc. The audience here on Reddit remained supportive and sympathetic to what I had gone through, and has allowed me to strike up some really good conversations with folks who have experienced similar situations in their lives. The rest of the messages came from those of you who were already familiar with my story and wanted to know how I'm doing these days. So I figured I'd post again and let you know how much I appreciate each and every single one of you for helping me get through this. Every comment and message helped me in some way during the darkest of my days. So it's been 3 years now since D-Day, and more than a year since my last post. This last year has been the first where I've been able to finally focus on me. I don't have an update on my ex-wife or her situation, as I've gone completely no contact from her entire family on all forms of communication. I even had to mute or block mutual friends of ours. where unwanted information may have been able to slip through. I knew from my past experiences that keeping anything that had to do with her or her family off my feed was going to give me the best chance to focus on my life moving forward, not letting my mind get lost in the past. Honestly, going no contact with her family was extremely difficult, because they were my family, up until she chose to do what she did. I loved some of them as I would blood relatives, and coming to terms with losing those relationships was hard and unfair, but ultimately necessary. I know the strategy is working for me and benefiting me, because as time goes on, there are far more days where I don't think about her at all versus when I do. Even if I do think about her now, it's more of a, thank God I dodged that crap storm, than anything to do with sorrow or pain. This last year during the pandemic, I made a drastic change in my career and started my own independent consulting business in tech support, IT system design. It was a leap of faith that was quickly rewarded, landing a few contracts relatively quickly, including 2 government organizations here in the county where I reside. It's been a heck of a lot of work, but both contracts have been renewed for another 12 months with no signs of slowing down. Working for myself and having the freedom to make such a decision with no one dependent on my success except for myself has been invigorating, and I take so much pride in the work I'm able to deliver to my clients. Having that feeling of self-worth has made a huge difference in how I view the past, and not so feeling worried about the present or future. My work life is solid. My finances are far better than they have ever been. My mind is mostly free from the memories that haunted me. My body is in better shape than it has been since the whole thing started, and I'm feeling good about myself as a man. The one area I'm a bit concerned with has to do with the general lack of trust in people, but especially women in a romantic sense. My lack of trust in people made leaving my job easy and going into business for myself a no-brainer. I don't have to count on anyone but myself to get the job done, and the job always gets done. But romantically, the urge to be with someone has faded drastically. I'm fine being alone, and in my brief exploration into online dating, I realized that for the most part, it's nothing but a cesspool of broken people. I came to this conclusion after 3 or 4 dates that turned out to be extremely underwhelming experiences with women who weren't really looking for something of substance, as their profiles would have had you believe, but rather attention-deprived women who wanted the undivided attention of men they were speaking or meeting with. I don't believe a single one of those dates I went on about a year ago were only talking to me at the time, which made me feel like I was condoning their playing the field. I've had enough of that for one lifetime. I don't mean to sound like I'm disrespectful of any women, or that I've taken a pill or am going my own way. There's a huge part of me that yearns for that connection and intimacy, and I desire to share my life with someone. However, just because I feel that way doesn't mean that I'm going to let just anyone into my life for the sake of not being alone. I'm willing to be patient, do the work I need to do to continue putting my life on its best course, and keep my eyes, ears, and heart open to the idea that I can love again someday. I have this annoying self-dialogue that pops into my head more than I'd like to admit that keeps reminding me that I'm 34 years old and I should have had a wife and kids by now and be living a happy life like all of my other friends who are paying mortgages, going on trips, doting over their children, and living their best lives seemingly. What do I have? Money in the bank? Does that make you feel better about your life? This is something I obviously need to continue working on, but I know that holding myself to some theoretical timeline in my head isn't what I need in reality. For now, I'm grateful to have the life I'm leading. I'm blessed beyond belief to not be living a different version of my life with my ex-wife still being tied to me. And I'm hopeful that if I continue putting myself first and making the most of my days, that no matter what happens, I'll be able to look back and say that I'm proud of who I am, and that I made the most out of being dealt a pretty bad hand to start with. Thank you for all your time, advice, support, and words of wisdom. I wouldn't have made it without you. On to the comments. Tell Me More Lies starts us off. That is a terrible journey that you have been through. However, I believe that what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Having said this, you must now be incredibly strong. Please hang around this and other infidelity subs and websites and help others who randomly post for the first time. You have gained knowledge that newcomers will need very badly. Remember when you first posted and how screwed up you were and how some of the advice helped you? Please try and pass this along to the next person who needs it. Been there, done that, closes us out. I'm one of many that have read your story along the way, and it sure has been a doozy. I have to admit I was intrigued by it and wondered how everything would turn out. So many times people would make a post and then never provide an update. It's understandable in a sense. It's hard to continually throw out the details of events in their lives that are so traumatic, but you managed to pull through it all with strength, courage, and dignity, and I admired that. It's good to see you still hanging in there to this day, and even taking the time to let us know that you're doing okay. It's too bad that your dating experiences aren't that great at the moment, but that's the modern era for you. Someday that will change, and you'll meet someone when the time is right. No need to rush. I wish you continued success in your recovery. Oh, I don't want to risk opening any old wounds, and you don't have to comment back on it, but I've been dying to point out one thing I was happy to see. After being touted as the new man of her dreams for the whole world to see, Buddy must still be somewhere sulking and feeling like the biggest fool in the universe right now. Just thought you probably got a chuckle out of that. Take care.